Alright there, YouTube. Welcome back to the channel. Now in today's video, we're actually going to do some upgrades on my blown 1993 Jaguar XJS. Now it's been a long time since I've done a video on this project, and really that's because this car has been relatively unchanged for a couple of years now. But I've done, I think, 7 autocross events now with this car, and it's time to do a couple upgrades so that this thing can get around the corners a little bit better. You know, this car's got a lot of power, but it doesn't necessarily handle particularly well. The suspension's really soft, it wallows a lot, it doesn't have the best grip, so we're going to do a few upgrades on this. Now the first thing we're going to do here is we got a new set of tires that are going to go on the rear. The tires I have on it right now are the Federal 595 SS. They're not a particularly sticky tire. They're a decent road tire. They've got good grip on the street. But these should be a much more autocross orientated tire. It's a lot bigger tread blocks. It's a softer compound. The tread's not going to flex around and move near as much on these tires as it will these ones. We're also going up in size by quite a bit. We're going to a 265 35/18 in the rear, whereas I currently have a 245 40/18 in the rear. And we're going to move these tires I've got on the rear to the front for right now, and then probably later I'm going to go to the same tire and probably a 245 40/18 for the front. The other change which I worked on here last weekend is I did a more performance orientated alignment on it. I gave it a little bit of camber, a little bit of toe in, and just driving it on the street, the steering is much more responsive now. The steering was always pretty vague on this car. It's the steering inputs are a lot crisper, a lot cleaner, feel a lot better now, so I think that was a good upgrade. I've also got front and rear sway bars ordered for this car, but they are not here yet. The next autocross event is next weekend, so hopefully they will be in before then. And then I've also got a full set of EBC brakes and some new front rotors. I'm not going to do the rear rotors quite yet because, quite frankly, the rear rotors on this car are a giant pain in the butt. And they're not in bad shape, so I'm just going to put EBC brakes on the factory rotors in the back. I'm going to put these slotted rotors in the front with a set of EBC brakes. But anyway, I can't dilly-dally too much here. I do have an appointment to get these tires mounted, and what we're going to do is I'm going to pull the rims and tires off the front of this car, and that's what we're going to mount the new rear tires on, and then we're going to move those to the back. I think we're probably going to have to roll the fender lip a little bit to make them fit, but I got an appointment to get those tires mounted, so I need to hurry up and get these rims off of the car and get them in the back of my pickup and down to get the tires mounted. So anyway, let's get to it. Now for those of you guys that didn't watch the build video on this 89 Toyota pickup, I highly suggest you check it out. I think that was a pretty good video. Took this whole truck apart, actually took 2 trucks completely apart and built one of them out of it. It was super low buck build, and for stage 1 of this project, just making it a running, driving, functional vehicle, it came out really good. I probably will do some body work and stuff on this thing in the future, make it look nicer. Probably pull the engine back out and go through it and stuff like that. But overall, I think that first video on the revival is a really good video. I think you guys will like it. I'll put a link to that video in the description down below. If you haven't seen it, you can go check it out. Alright. Alright, so we're back from getting tires mounted, and I just had to throw these on here and get a peek at what they were going to look like. I just couldn't help myself, but yeah, I think that's going to look pretty good. These rear tires look mean as heck. Definitely pushing the width limit on these rims. These are 8.5-inch rims with a 265 tire. In order to go any wider than that, I would definitely need a different set of rims. I've got plenty of clearance to the inside of the tire. To the outside, I think it's actually just barely going to clear the fender lip. I'm going to need to cycle the suspension to know for sure, but I may have to roll this fender lip just a little bit, but it's going to be really close. I think this is pretty much the limit of how wide I'm going to be able to go in the rear. If I were to move the offset in just a tiny bit and a little bit wider rim, maybe I could squeeze a 275 in here, but for what I got going on right now, this is definitely going to be the limit of tire width that I can fit in the back. You can see these tires are a fair bit bulged, and I don't actually mind that look much. Some guys don't like it. I kind of like it, but really excited to feel the grip difference with these tires. Kind of wish I'd gone ahead and ordered all four. I did throw that tire on the front here and just kind of turn it, and it actually looks like we'd actually probably clear everything with the 265 up front as well. But this car is definitely oversteer prone, so that's part of why I'm trying to stick with the slightly narrower tire on the front than the back. Kind of help balance the car out a little bit more. But definitely think I'm going to be going to that tire on the front. Get everything cleaned up here, then we can go ahead and put our new yellow stuff brake pads in. Now these brake pads do have an abrasive coating on them that deglazes the rotor and helps the brakes to bed in. So we need to put 50 miles of just normal driving on this car before we take it to the track. Okay, so now the rear brakes are in. You can see if you look up in here, that's where the brake rotor is, all the way back in there on the center differential. You can kind of see the yellow of the new brake pads back in there. There's nothing out on the wheel end. Leave it to Jaguar to take something simple and overly complicate it, like moving the rear disc brakes inboard to reduce unsprung weight, which is a good thing in terms of performance, but then put it on with soft shocks and no rear sway bar. So these cars were never really full-on performance cars. They were GT cars, so they're more of a GT luxury car, really. So although they've got overly complicated, overly engineered stuff like inboard rear brakes, they're still not really set up to performance car standards. So I've got the rear fender lip rolled in a little bit here. I pulled the coil overs off of the rear suspension so that I could put the tire on and then put a jack underneath it and cycle the suspension, and we have plenty of clearance. So basically all we got to do here now, we're going to put the back tires back on. Then we're going to need to torque all the lug nuts, put the center caps back on, and we can take this thing for a bit of a test drive. Still definitely breaks them loose. Alright, so I'm just going to give the tires a real quick scrub and then do like a 0 to 60 launch here and See how it feels.